Hello. Good evening. How's everybody? It's Monday night. It's time for Disputed Lands. Stick around, it's going to be a good one.
Well, just because you have an understanding of the Bible in your head doesn't necessarily mean that you have Jesus in your heart.
Get right, get inside, get hungry, got appetite. Everlasting water, never again thirsty. To disputed lands, take a journey.
You are listening to Chad SCHAFER on Disputed Lands.
You're getting another one this week. There we are. Look who's here, folks. So, of course, you guys know, if you're here, you should know who I am. I'm your host. I'm Chad SCHAFER. This is Disputed Lands. On what appears to be the upper right-hand corner here on your screen is someone who hasn't been on Disputed Lands in over a year. He's someone that some of you think dived into a hole and disappeared. Well, he hasn't. He's right here. This is brother Nate Wolf on the show.
Hey.
And then on
Thanks
the
for having
bottom
me.
of your screen, looking very debonair, I should say. Debonair. I'm going to say debonair because I had that French paper as the background there for the thing. And debonair is Michael Solomon. And believe it or not, folks, here's a little bit of trivia for you. Michael Solomon has never been a guest on Disputed Lands. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it.
All this time he's been on Take on the World TV. He's like, a favorite chair. He's just someone you expect to be there, right? And you associate him with Take on the World. You associate him with Nate Wolf and Chris and Liz, and you associate him with all of us folks, but you never associated him with Disputed Lands. But now you can.
Nice.
Now you can. Nate, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Initially scheduled to be the only guest here on tonight's show, and then I spoke with Michael today. Michael, he messages me every now and then when he sees something that just cracks him up, just drives him insane, and he's got to share it with somebody and say, "Can you believe this?" If he sees me online, that's what Michael does. He'll share this with me. He say, and that's what he did today. He said, can you believe? Basically, can you believe this stuff? And so I said, hey, no, I can't. That's insane. Why don't you come on the show tonight? He said, okay. And here we are. So, Brother Nate, what has been going on, man? Talk to us. Where have you been? Because there's not everybody who knows where you've been.
Well, I have been on a few live streams this past year, but I haven't been doing live streams on my channel, only because a couple of things. Number one, about almost a year and a half ago, it's been that long, almost a year and a half ago, I got a job because I needed to pay bills. And family of six, you need funds to do certain things. So
right.
I needed something consistent and something that would pay close to my, experience and field. And I was really blessed to get on with an agency in my area, utilizing some of my previous skills from another life ago, and that is investigations and report writing, case management, things like that. So if you could imagine having no job and having all your time being yours, and then all of a sudden having, 40 plus hours a week added to that in a structured, Monday through Friday deal. And then of course, trying to carve out time for Sabbath, making sure that is something set every week. And then family stuff, about the last year and a half or so, we've, our children are all now young adults. Some, the oldest is 23 and the youngest is going to be turning 18. So for any of you who have raised young adults, or are raising them now, you understand how that early 20s, late teens is a super important time of transition. And I decided that I wanted to make sure that number one, I kept my job so I could pay bills. So I had to focus on that. Number two, actually more important, I guess you could say number one, family. I wanted to make sure that I was around and available and helping to coach my children because I'm still a parent, but I realized that Jennifer and I were really kind of moving more into the coach phase of parenting because some of our children don't live in our home anymore. And so we don't get to tell them as much what to do. So they do a lot more on their own. And so that's been kind of a new phase that we've, gone through. And so those are two reasons why I haven't been active on my personal channel, although I've been on some live streams. A lot of people know that I'm most active on Facebook as far as the interwebs. I'm still doing, a lot of behind the scene one-on-one ministry with people that I've connected through the years over Facebook. So I haven't stopped doing ministry and things like that. But I really wanted to take my free time and use it exclusively almost for ministry. The other thing was that with YouTube crunching everybody down and whatnot, it was just making it very difficult, to try to not be shadow banned, to try to get people to tune in and share the message. And so I've just kind of left that a little bit dormant for now on my personal YouTube channel, but that could change in the future. We'll see. But no, I haven't really been in a hole. I've been in my home office because since the whole COVID stuff started and I started a new job, I ended up working almost exclusively remote, doing interviews and things via phone and Zoom. And so I've really kind of been in a home office. So I guess you could say I was kind of in a hole, it's a pretty nice hole. So if anyone's ever seen, Michael, you've seen my office, it's not too bad. But that's what I've been up to.
Well, yeah, I'm glad to hear it. I want to say hello, you folks in YouTube cannot see her. Folks are watching us live too. Carla is our faithful Facebook viewer, and she's trying to get some other people in there. Hello to you and to YouTube and all our friends and family out there. Nate, it's good to see your face, and welcome back to the world of no sleep with me and the rest of us. I understand having to figure out how to get that time and make it meaningful, because that's why I took last year off. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that was a big part of it. When you go, when you're only getting your Sabbath and you mark that out for your family, the rest of that time, the other 6 days are full, start to finish. And when you're doing a scheduled show on top of that, or whatever it is, your ministry on top of family, friend, etc., all that. I mean, it's a grind. It can be a grind. Yeah. And for me, what was happening, Nate, and I'm sure Michael he's probably been there too, is that, and I've said this before, is that I could get up in the morning for me, which is the afternoon. I could have my coffee and my prayer, read the scripture, get recentered, thank the Father for a new day, this gift. I'd be all centered, and it would be about the time I was ready to go to bed, sometimes before, depending on what happened during the day, that, I could tell, what, it's time for rest again. And it slowly began to become that my peace was getting stolen within 5 minutes of getting out of that wake up time for the things that I was hearing. I would go from having the peace of the Lord to ready to, kick a car, like that. And my temperature, my temperament was going from, calm to hot, just like this. And my peace was getting stolen, just like this. And it became to where, when you start operating and trying to minister or correct or do anything that you're supposed to do in that spirit, it's all coming from the flesh. It's not coming from the Father's indwelling and the Holy Spirit and guidance and all that. You're just doing it in your own strength. And and it was like, you know what, I have to get recentered. I have to get reoriented. Obviously, there's some things that the Father needs to work on me with. So that's what happened, you know.
Sure.
So I understand, you know, sometimes you gotta focus on the things that are closer to you until you can get recentered, get that figured out before you go back into doing whatever it is you're doing, if that's the direction you're going to end up going.
Yeah,
So,
for
but
sure.
Michael, we brother got to hang out. You got to talk to my wife, take on the
Yeah,
world.
finally
And
met her.
I didn't get to hear, but the beginning of one of your talks, I got to listen to half of it, and then I had to get back to somewhere else, or I got called away. But so that's cool. But what have you been up to? Can you tell since Take on the World, what's been going on with Michael Solomon?
Well, quite a bit. Tech on the World was a huge success as usual, and so we got home and promptly got sick.
Mm.
So we were laid up for 3 weeks with pneumonia. A lot of people kept saying, "Did you get COVID?" No, I did not. I had pneumonia, just plain old sucker punch pneumonia. So my wife and I both got it. So after we started to recover from that, and I ended up losing 30 pounds and growing a beard. So so that was interesting. So we just got back to work. Our main objective is to get back to Canon Quest. So we're doing just what Nate has done, just trying to find gigs because we have our own business. So acquiring better clients and more lucrative jobs. And our primary goal is to do full-time ministry. So that's what we're trying to do. Canon Quest is moving, just not as fast as we want it to, and to get it in more hands. So that's basically what both of us are doing, just working our business to get back to the real work.
Well, I want to say hello first, Audrey. Thank you. You're happy to see me. I love you, and I'm happy to see you too. I said it in a post, but I'll say it to you here. Cannot wait to see your face again, so we can give each other a hug in person. Number one, but um, I wanted to say it's good to see you guys face to face. It's good to get together. It's good to talk to you guys and be encouraged. Um, I was sharing with both of you guys here before that I was shared something today. I have one person that shares me interesting articles and videos and stuff like that, and she's someone I haven't blocked. Now, most people, if you're not a part of my disputed prayer lands group, if you're not one of my confidence is that I know in this life and friends, most people get blocked on Messenger. I just don't simply have the time. But I have one person that's always sending me, not I mean sending me stuff, but it's interesting. It's not just sometimes it catches me off guard. Sometimes it's stuff that just makes me laugh. Sometimes it's stuff that makes me shake my head. But this one is I got a chart up and I can't minimize it or I'm gonna lose track of what it is. But this is a chart that was uh, designed. I'm gonna put it on the screen here, and let's see if I can blow it up here. Oh, I can't. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So this is called. I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen. You may have to go to a computer or something to see this. But this is called Biderman's chart of coercion. Biderman's chart of coercion. This was designed 65 years ago for prisoners of war. For prisoners of war, this is what this was designed for. It's a psychological method to be employed against the people you have in prison. It says it's a tool designed to demonstrate and explain the coercive methods of stress manipulation used to torture prisoners of war, it has been applied to explain the coercive techniques used by perpetrators of also domestic abuse. These are methods of psychological warfare, both of abusive spouses and used against prisoners of war. So this list directly reflects the original chart and it has not been changed to fit domestic abuse content. So the method, isolation. I want you to see if anything sounds familiar to you about what we see happening today. The, the method isolation deprives victim of social support or their ability to resist, of support of their ability to resist, develops an intense concern with self. This could be anywhere, makes victim dependent. The variants, complete solitary confinement, complete or partial isolation, group isolation. So this is all part of the methods. Monopolization of perception fixes attention upon immediate predicament, eliminates information not in compliance with the demands, punishes independence and or resistance. It's physical isolation, darkness or bright light, restricted movement, monotonous food. Humiliation and degradation makes resistance more costly than compliance. Animal level concerns. Variance, personal hygiene prevented, demeaning punishments, insults and taunts, denial of privacy. Exhaustion weakens mental and physical ability to resist. Semi-starvation, sleep deprivation, prolonged interrogation, overexertion. Threats creates anxiety and despair, outlines cost of non-compliance. Threatens to kill, threats of abandonment or non-return, threats against family, vague threats, mysterious changes of treatment. Occasional indulgences, positive motivation for compliance, hinders adjustment to deprivation. Occasional favors, rewards or partial compliance, promises, and then demonstrating ability of resistance. The variant is confrontation, showing complete control over victim's face. Forcing trivial demands, develops habit of compliance, enforcement of rules. So I read that, and we know that there's a psychological warfare that's taking place, and we knew there was a playbook. It just seemed very interesting to me when I ran across one of the playbook outlines, guidelines, and I started reading this. I was like, well, yeah, I mean, sure, I get it. Anyway, I just want to share. You guys have any thoughts on that? I can't hear you. You've muted yourself, brother.
It sounds exactly what's going on now. I mean, they took it right out of that book and they're using it now. I mean, I call it Coronaism. And they're basically have created this false belief system based off of what was that, guidelines for prisoners in prison? I mean,
yeah, prisoners of war. Mm-hmm.
Good grief. So they're basically taking it straight from that book.
I mean, yeah, it's these tools have been known. They've been known for a long time.
Sure.
But this is the outline and a guideline for those who have prisoners. It's for the wardens and for those who do the interrogations, to break down their prisoners.
Wow.
I want to address something here real quick. Globe Earth moving. Let's not talk about that topic. I will be discussing that on a future Disputed Lands, but for now, I'm just going to ask that you not bring that up in the chat tonight. We'll talk about it in the future. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Nate. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it sounds exactly like what's going on now, and it shows further that defiance and non-compliance is the only way to deal with it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the only way. This is a war, and the only way to fight off the enemy is to punch them in the face. So non-compliance is really the only way to do it. Now, I'm not saying that that's easy. Again, it's a war, so I'm not saying it's easy. But with Yahweh behind us and guiding us and giving us the strength to do this, then it's a fight we can win. The beautiful thing about spiritual warfare is its rules of engagements are very simple. You fight, you win. You don't fight, you lose. It's real simple. You can't lose when you're fighting with the Messiah empowering you. That it is impossible to lose, but you have to keep the fight going. You have to keep standing, and then you'll burst through. But non-compliance is the best way to deal with this.
Yeah, and a couple of the things I couldn't see the screen, all the little words, because it was much smaller on my laptop, but I was listening, and one of the things I could hear is the isolation was part of that. And certainly we saw that a year ago when they were trying to say, oh, don't get together with your family for Thanksgiving, or whatever. And even in Ohio, they were trying to say, well, limit, gatherings to blah, blah, blah. And we just were like,
right.
Totally ignored it.
Right.
We just went on like business was usual, because I knew it was, there were some threats that were made. And, the government wouldn't call it threats, but we know what a threat is. And we just basically decided, look, they don't have as much power as they're pretending that they have. And so I would agree with Michael, is that if more people don't comply, then, a lot of their stuff is really just bluffing. Yep. However, I also agree that it's a spiritual battle at its base level, at its most foundational level. And we have to fight that with spiritual warfare. So it's very good for someone to say, they go into Kroger and they say, I'm not going to wear a mask. Someone says, sir, do you want a free mask? We've got some up at the booth for you. It's like, no, thanks. I'm not going to wear a mask. And I had that discussion with a few Kroger employees before. However, it's better to take it a step further than just say, I'm non-compliant. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to get the thing. We really need to take our opportunities to share with people the spiritual reasons for why we're not. It's not just because I'm anti this or I'm anti that. That's what we get labeled. But I love our brother D.R. Lee. Every time he gets into a conversation with somebody, it gets spiritual real quick. He says, I'm not participating this or doing that because, and then he'll share the spiritual principles. He'll share scripture. He'll say, the Father said not to be fearful, not to do this, not to do that. So I think we have to train ourselves to get in that mode and not just be seen as the anti people. I used to be part of a religious group where we were known for all the things we didn't do. And the joke sometimes when we needed to check ourselves was say, well, do people know what we do and what we do believe in? And, or do they just know us because we don't use, instrumental music, or we don't do this, or we don't do that, because I was part of a pretty conservative group that had a lot of things we didn't do. But we need to tell people why we do or don't do something, and give the spiritual reasons, because it may plant a seed. It may give us an opportunity.
Yeah, I think the manner in which that is done has to be a big part. Communicating in text or print, you can't hear the genuflections of someone's voice, the manner in which the words are being delivered, and that kind of thing, the care in which someone shows or concern. And, I have been the same way in that regards to, public interaction. It was a matter, but I think a disciplined heart and a disciplined mind is becoming a necessity if you're going to go outside your walls. It should have been this way before. Let's be honest.
Sure.
It should have always been that way before.
Sure.
But now there's nobody who's left with an excuse to say this isn't my mission field. Well, you're being forced to be in that mission field. You're being forced to learn how to govern yourself and to speak, clearly and appropriately,
Yeah.
and to learn how to respond when people confront you, and because you're going to be confronted. If you don't, you can become. We see what's happening in Australia. CT be darned. They'll never put you in camps. They'll never put you in camps. Well, guess what? Guess what? Australia, they're taking people off the camps, and those people don't get to stop them per se. And they're building another one. They're building another. This one was planned last year. And a lot of people, and they're building another one. They already took like some 1,500 people to this one place that they built. They're in the process of building another one. They say, well, if we've already got this, what's the point of building another one? We don't really need it, right? No, we're going to keep building it. They got plans, folks. They got plans. I'm telling you, they got plans. And then, so if we think, the only reason that hasn't happened here is because there are still quite a number of people who are vocal about this. There's who offering resistance, offering counter information, and
right.
That's at every level. It has to keep happening at every level.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about Castro Jr. there, Audrey. Castro Jr. he's a piece of work too. And then another article that came across this week is that we all know about CRT that's happening. I'm going to use that, right? You guys know what CRT is?
Yeah.
Okay. CRT that's been causing uproars around. There was a memorandum sent to the FBI to use the resources of the FBI to start treating parents who are attending school board meetings as terrorists, right? There's been a number of hearings at the Capitol about this, people showing that, hey, certain people saying, why are we doing this? Why, and I listened to the guy who sent the memo. So, that's not what it's about. And we've retracted the memo. The National School Board of Associations has with for it. It's not going to be enforced. Okay, sure. Then why down in Texas, do we see that there were some people voicing their concerns at a school board meeting? They were cut off. This is a public meeting. They were cut off and escorted out by the police because they were very vocal about how upset they were with the way the school board was handling things, telling them in no certain terms they need to lose their jobs. Escorted out because they didn't like what they heard.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more than that. They were then instructed to go to these people's homes. The cops went to these people's homes and arrested them for disorderly conduct and taken to jail for whatever. So this is the kind of world we're living in now. This is the kind of stuff that we're seeing take place. And so I was saying that any more thought, I'm gonna just turn it over to you, take a drink, and let you guys have any more thought. Is there anything you've seen like this that I haven't mentioned yet?
Go ahead, Michael.
The Australia, the attack on the Australian people has been really hitting me hard. I've been keeping track of that, talking to some people that actually live there, and I mean, when you can talk to them, and especially relatives of people who live there, and they are basically, Australia is what America wants to be. It's what the American government wants. That's where they want us to go. That's going to be kind of difficult here. Now, in Australia, they're not allowed to have guns. They're a bit more obedient to their government. And so even though the population completely outnumbers the military there, they're still complying with them because, number one, they're accustomed to that. And number two, they're intimidated by all the coercion that they're using by the armed guards and the military running around with guns. So they're just giving up their freedom. Now, I mean, for that to happen here, sure, eventually it's going to happen. It is inevitable. According to scripture, it is inevitable. It's going to happen here. But the question is how, because even a second lockdown is going to be very difficult here because more people are awake. Even governors are starting to fight it, okay, because they're noticing, hey, it didn't work, so we're not doing it again. So the powers that be, or what I call the scum elite, know that the next time they try something like that, it's not going to be as easy as the first time. I mean, like Nate said, my wife and I, we completely ignored the lockdown. We were having business meetings, family events. We were shaking hands and giving hugs and not wearing a mask. And I mean, we completely ignored it. Okay. The government doesn't have a right to tell me to stay in my house. They just don't. So we didn't. Now, mind you, there wasn't too many places to go since everything was closed up, but we still had clients over and we met with clients. And like I said, we had family events and stuff like that. And it was totally normal. Going to the store was interesting. It was always an adventure because I'm not wearing a mask. Number one, I'm asthmatic. Number two, it's wrong. Okay, there you go. It's real simple. So I haven't worn one till this at all, ever. Because I'm asthmatic. Wait a minute. I have to walk around with this thing all day, every day. Okay. Now I use much less of it now than I used to because of diet, exercise, and stuff like that. And I'm going to go backwards simply to make other people feel warm and fuzzy. That's insane. So no, it's not going to happen. Now my wife and I know that the Father is going to take care of us. Okay, He's going to make sure that the enemy doesn't attack us into oblivion. Okay, and so this is the time where we need to show trust. But Australia has been an issue. I'm heartened by the way the governors are taking this. Governors and mayors of different states like Florida, they're really taking all of these measures to the mat and fighting it. More people are awake in America, and it's because of that. And of course, the people who have a personal relationship with the Messiah. Okay, and there's a lot of people here with guns. Okay, so America isn't going to be all that hard to just let's all go to concentration camp. Yeah, I wouldn't try that if I were you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And can I jump in here? I wanted to mention something
please.
because when you said that, a thought popped into my head. I believe that you are correct, that they're not going to be able to do some of the lockdowns and stuff as effectively if they try it again, because people been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and they don't want that again. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that what they're doing right now is that they're tanking our economy. And what they're hoping to do then is like, okay, well, if you won't, stay inside your house, fine. But now there's going to be less and less food on the shelf, right? And so I could still go to any store in my town and fill up more carts than I could afford, right? I can still get plenty of food. But if you look at what's missing, and if you notice, us Americans, we're pretty particular and we're used to the finer things, and we have pretty, I guess we have pretty advanced palates, right?
Yeah.
And most of us aren't used to eating beans and cornbread, every other night or whatever, because most of us have never skipped a meal, since our childhood. At least I could say that I haven't. But one of the things that I thought about is if they can't get it with the first ways that they tried, they're going to try other ways. And I think what they're looking to do is with the quote, food shortage, and what I believe is a manufactured, shipping crisis. What they're going to do is they're going to try to cripple people into submission. Okay, so you won't wear a mask and you won't stay in your home, but now when you go out of your home and you're not wearing your mask, how are you going to get food? I think it's going to get worse. I hope I'm wrong, but that's one of the things that I was thinking about. And Patricia asked a good question in the chat too. If I could mention, she asked me if my work position, prevents me from speaking out against these things that most of us would consider tyranny. There are some policies and procedures for employees. What we can share, personally, if it reflects on the employer, but because I've been very careful to not share where I work or even say, certain descriptive factors, I've given some generalizations, which could be a lot of jobs. I think I'm somewhat protected with that. So I am trying to be careful, when I talk about what I do. But honestly, I mean, if push came to shove, I know I've been fired before. I've been fired twice. So honestly, I'm surprised that I've survived a year and a half in this job, because I would have thought that winter last year and then into spring, they would have been preparing to make mandates at my job, that they haven't done so yet. And I'll tell you, the interesting thing is, I believe because my section isn't under, our agency is not under the OSHA. It's under something different. And interestingly enough, I won't say what it's under, but it's not the typical OSHA that a lot of government places would be under, but I do work for government. And I think that's one thing that's helped me. The other thing that's helped me in my position is that they're fearful of people suing them. And we have a legal department that keeps a finger on the pulse, what's happening in our nation, what's happening, as Michael described, with governors and lawsuits. So I think, could it be coming soon? There could be some type of mandates for Nate coming soon, but it's taken longer than I've expected. So I'm kind of just making hay while the sun shines, as they say, and praying and hoping for the best, and above all, trusting in the Father.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been able to use as a barometer is really my own wife. I've said it before. My wife is quiet. She's very reserved. She doesn't make friends quickly. If she's made you a friend, then it's unique, and it's something very special.
Nice.
If she trusts you enough to call you a friend and think of you as a friend, then that's a pretty unique thing. She doesn't speak out. She doesn't like to draw attention to herself. And so I've been able to use her really as a barometer. And so one of the things that I've noticed over this last year and a half, now that doesn't mean she doesn't have a view and she's not afraid to use her voice when she feels like something is going wrong. And I have increasingly seen my wife saying and speaking out about things that normally she just would have not said anything or not got involved, because again, her natural response is to not draw attention to herself, to not be the one to stir up the nest or to start the fight. So watching her over this last year and a half become vocal, and then also seeing her vocalize in different situations very much her thoughts with passion in some instances, exactly how she feels or what she thinks about certain things, has been very unique. And I say a barometer because, seeing my wife and knowing her personality means to me that there are probably many others that were like her in that same personality that are probably doing the same thing. People before that would have never been involved are becoming involved.
Mm.
They are beginning to speak out. And
Mhm.
to the point you made, Nate, I was thinking kind of the same thing. There, if these things don't work, they aren't going to give up,
No.
right? They've been able to grab some power. Some obviously we've seen the largest wealth transfer
Mm.
take place in the shortest amount of time ever in history of free nations. The largest, think about this, the largest wealth transfer that has ever taken place has been accomplished from governments to corporations that there has ever been in history. That's
Yeah. And think about the type of corporations that are making big, I'm talking billions big money
right.
in the
So
last 18 months.
right.
Right.
So there's too much money to be had. There's too much power to be had. They're not going to just roll over and give that up. It's kind of, the putting the bear in a corner, kind of a thing. That's the fight or flight. It's not going to give up. It means it's going to come back at you with different weapons. Um, if the soft weapons don't work, they bring out, sharper ones. And the fact that we have to talk like this in these manners to make us feel like we have to defend our own lives and livelihood are being made both in the public sphere and private sphere through lawmaking or mandates. It really says a lot about the reality that we are actually in. This is if I heard myself talking this way 2 years ago, I would be thinking, man, Schaefer, you've gone off the deep end, haven't you, brother? been you've been sitting there on a little too long on some conspiracy sites, brother. Come up here, grab some air. you know, sounds like you've gotten a little far off. But I think and it's such a short amount of time too.
Mm.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we have to remember, their greatest weapon is fear, because at the end of the day, they actually fear us. We outnumber them multiple millions to one, and they know it. It's just that most people don't know it, and they take their bluff as if it's real. Yes, they're rich, influential, psychopathic maniacs, but they are not gods. So
Mhm.
just because they plan a thing doesn't mean that thing is going to happen. Quite frankly, if they had that kind of power, we'd all be dead by now. I mean, as far as the Georgia Stones are concerned, 90% of us would already be dead if they had that type of ultimate absolute control. They don't. And we have to keep that in mind because they can only go as far as our Father allowed them. And he stopped them on many, many strategies that they have tried to hatch, probably more than we know. So
Absolutely, yeah.
at the end of the day, we believers have the upper hand.
And they're not omniscient either. So they have studied us. I mean, that is a fact. And when you talk about warfare, whether you're talking about physical warfare, spiritual warfare, the enemy studies us, right? Because they know our weaknesses. They know our tipping points, at least for the majority. If they look at the population, they say, hey, we're pretty certain we can get 60 to 70% of the population to do ABC. And again, it goes down to fear, right? Why do you think we have so many variants? And now we're on the O variant. And it's
Oh
like
man.
I told my wife, we were driving in the car the other day, I said, Jen, I said, do you think when they get down to Z that they'll stop or will it start over? Will this be like hurricanes where no, we start back at the beginning, and now it's this and then the secondary name, to
Right, right,
differentiate.
right.
But the reason why, as Michael said, is why do they keep doing those? Because the majority of the population is believing it, right? They're continuing to have that fear cycle. If the majority of the population was like, stop, okay, this is baloney, enough is enough, we see what you're doing here. If the majority said that, they would have to say, oh, no, we've cleared it up now, everything's great.
Yep, right, exactly.
The other thing to consider is that we know what one of their big goals was that they wanted most of the people to get the thing, right? So most of a majority, not as big a majority as the CNN would want you to believe, but a majority, I think, have gotten it, some form of it, multiples forms, and some for some people. And so, unfortunately, from a physiological standpoint, some of that damage is already done. But I mean, if they didn't have anybody cowering with another variant, they wouldn't keep coming out with them. So we have to keep that in mind. It's a fear response. It's actually a trauma, to keep doing the same thing over to somebody. They're trying to stack trauma and fear. And for some people, it's very effective.
Yeah, we need to keep speaking to people we have reason to talk to. I have a neighbor across the street. You know, I knew of his family my whole life years ago, but as I spoke with him, I found out who he was, and it's like, oh, you're our family has known of your family's known of our family, we lived down the road from each other. Back when I was a little kid, 40 years ago. No mocking my age in the chat. Um, you know, and come to find out, he's their kid, and he lived across the street, and so I've been able to converse with him, talk with him, and everything else like this. And through those conversations, we've of course been talking about the things going on, and I have myself used those opportunities to ask questions that would lead somebody into a conversation
Mm.
pointedly about what we see going on. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think about this? You know how are you at, or how are you responding to, or what's your response to this going to be? Or and we each have to continue to do that on that one-to-one personal level, because it's the only way to make meaningful change in people's lives, that's going to allow them the courage, right? If they don't know the Father themselves
Mm.
anyway, to allow them the courage to not feel like they're alone, to not feel like they're, that they're the only one who thinks this.
Mhm.
Apart from a political organization, we're talking about one-on-one personal relationships here. So I feel like that's very important today to continue to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I totally agree. We have our work cut out for us as believers, because at the end of the day, that burden falls on our shoulders. We're supposed to be a light of the world. We're supposed to show them our relationship with the Father, and that is the answer. And we show that through our life. And so, yeah, we definitely have our work cut out for us. At the moment, though, the churches have dropped the ball big time. They have not only given in, but they've become proponents of this whole false religion. And a friend of mine just told me about a pastor who decided that his church should go full Corona. Okay. So you have to wear a mask. You have to social distance. You cannot sing no hymnals in the pews. No shaking hands. No giving hugs. The not singing part is hilarious to me. And of course, everyone has to receive the poison, and to show that there was nothing wrong with it and that it's a gift from the living God. He took the poison himself. He is now in ICU waiting for a heart transplant. Okay, so there's consequences to this. And a lot of people don't seem to realize this thing is going to hurt you. There is no upside to this. There is not a group of people that simply won't get harmed. It's medicine and it'll help you. No, look, read the ingredients. No one will get away from this unscathed. If it doesn't kill you right away, it will get you soon. And so that's the whole point. Okay. So this pastor has suffered. He's paying the price now. But this is not an isolated incident. This is going on all over the country.
Yeah. No, I the church that I had grown up in, I see go this way. My sister and her family, when this whole thing first started to come out, ended up leaving that church. We left years ago, simply because my job schedule didn't allow us to attend there anymore, and of course, personal reasons which you all guys all know about. But I still, there were still a lot of people there. My family who went there, and people who I um, view as family because I have known them and grown up with them my whole life. Know, I know their families, their family histories through Bible studies and everything else like that. But I saw that progression. Um, I saw the seeker friendly first thing start
Yeah.
making its way into the church, first subtly and then more so. But then my sister and her family end up leaving because when this whole thing started, they came in. They they were being compliant with the social distancing, whatever. They sat by themselves, but they were not going to wear the mask. And the pastor, during the sermon, called them out, looked at them, and made it a point to look at them and call them out for not being compliant with the government imposed mask mandate.
Wow.
So her husband and their family got up right then, walked out, and left this church. This was a church that I grew up in, one of the most conservative, small country church. Started off with a dozen people whom I knew personally who they were before they passed on.
Well, Chad, don't you know that Romans 13 tells all believers everywhere that they have to do everything that the government tells them to do, and if you don't, then you're disobeying Jesus. Don't you know that?
Yeah,
I've actually heard pastors actually say that it is your God-given duty to be I don't know what word to use without causing danger to your show, but to get the thing in your arm. It is your God-given duty to receive this, which of course I can never show anything in scripture to support that. The problem is that most people don't do research, they don't test all things, and so they believe everything he says and they go and do it and suffer the consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to be in prayer. We need to stay in contact with brothers and sisters, which is why you two knuckleheads are on Disputed Lands tonight. I remember my brother Rob saying, I started my revolutionary radio because I wanted to talk to people and I wanted an excuse to talk to them. And so he started revolutionary radio. That's what he did. So I thought, you know what? That's pretty smart. I want to talk to these people. I want to get them for an hour where they can't get away from me and make them my buddies and my friends. So I got these knuckleheads over here say, okay.
That way when Chad texts you,
I see how you do this.
When he texts you and says, "Hey, will you be on my show?" You can't be like, "Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, man, I got to be on with Chad." And then when I heard that Michael was joining, I was excited because I was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have some good stuff to talk about."
Yeah, we can get together and talk for an hour. So that leads me to the next thing. Nate, do you see yourself then here in this next year continuing on the kind of the same schedule path you are ministering more?
I mean, it's
what do you know? Do you even know?
It's possible. I mean, I have been praying about things, but I'm going to be honest with you. What was really, I mean, when I was mostly active on my YouTube stuff and I wasn't working and whatnot, I mean, I see it as kind of a phase that really helped me get to know people in the truther community and the believing, especially more so lately, the last year or so, in the believing arm of the truther community. And what it's done for me is actually put me in contact with thousands of different people. And through that, the Father and the Spirit works to bring people, to certain folks who can minister to their needs. And I've been blessed to be able to do some of that via prayer ministry and whatnot, some benevolence and other things. And so I've kind of learned that when you see positive things happening like that, okay, that's a hint, that's something good. I want to keep that going. So we'll see what happens. I mean, who knows? I mean, in 6 months, my job might be saying you've got to do ABC or you can't work here anymore. I'm not going to be doing ABC. You know me. So who knows? I mean, the Father could say, here, here's another switch. But in the meantime, I definitely want to make sure that I'm still doing that one-on-one, behind the scenes ministry of encouragement. I think that's really where I felt mostly called to. Like, and I'll be honest with you, you guys know I'm not unique. Okay, we're all tired, we're all worn out, right?
Oh, you're unique.
We're all working, yeah, we're all working hard, but I only have so much emotional and physical energy in this world that we live in. And so I've chosen to focus most of that into the things that I shared at the beginning of your show. However, that's the thing is I have decided personally, me, not to put most of that energy into YouTube. And that's just me. And I know some people are still bugging me. They're like, Nate, you haven't done a live stream in forever. I know, but until I feel that I need to do that, I'm not gonna take that focus away from other things, particularly, family. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm just active in different ways, and a lot of the ways I'm active aren't, they're not on YouTube or wherever. And so if anybody thinks I'm not doing work for the kingdom, couldn't be further from the truth. It's just a different focus. So we'll see what happens. I think a lot of things are going to change even in the next 6 months. And we'll see which direction it goes. But obviously, I'm not going to turn down opportunities to come on other folks, live streams and share about important topics. And I appreciate you reaching out to me, and others have too. Wes Blaze and John Griffin, others. Because I would be in the cave if nobody invited me to come on the show, So I appreciate that accountability, and I hope that some of the folks that listened tonight were part of that crew that were like, "Where's Nate? Is he alive? How's the Wolfpack doing?" Because they're not on Facebook. If they were on Facebook, they would see a lot more of what's going on with me. So.
Well, there you go, folks. And those who've been asking me or Chris or anybody else privately or publicly what's going on, just I get now. All I got to do is say, "Here's a link."
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are bailing out of
link in
Facebook. I get it, but for me, I have so many contacts through Facebook. It's the best way for me daily to be involved in people's lives, at least from a digital standpoint. So I'm not going to be leaving Facebook anytime real soon because I feel like the Father's using it for good. So
I saw it way back in the comments on YouTube, Michael. So I got a kind of a heads up. Nate Dogg isn't the only face that's been missing around here. People enjoy seeing, your debonair self and hearing that voice, that deep voice of yours. What are we going to? Are we going to see more of Michael Solomon in the future on this channel? Or what's going on?
Well, actually, we've taken the same route as Nate. Actually, and his family, we have to pull back and deal with family stuff. The time that Maria and I were on YouTube, Facebook, consistently, we loved it, but we were starting to run out of money. So we had to actually deal with that problem because without that, nothing moves. So we're trying to deal with that. 2022 is going to be a really good year for that, to returning back to that. I'm on Facebook some now. I don't do nearly as many posts as I used to. I post some things on Messenger, and I mainly comment on other people's posts just to keep on there. I do a couple of posts for my business because you can't have a Facebook page where you go on there and your last post was a year ago. That's not good. So I try to keep that up to date. But our primary thing is to get back to where we were when we started this whole thing, and 2022 is going to be that time. It's looking real good in spite of the snafus that we've had. It's looking really good, and we're looking forward to getting back to, especially the meetups. We really want to do more meetups. I was talking to someone today about one in Michigan, and so we're looking to get back with Canon Quest as well. We're still selling Canon Quest, but my marketing has gone down low because because Canon Quest is not our primary thing yet, not yet. So really, we're just trying to move forward and make 2022 our comeback year and stay there. Full-time ministry.
Flat out insights.
Oh yeah, big time. Chris and I have been talking about that because Chris is taking the same route. Really, he has a new baby now, Sophie, and so he's been getting his family together. But he and I have been talking about our next episode of Flat Out Insights, and to keep it going. So yeah, we're definitely going to keep doing Flat Out Insights. But we both had to take a break and deal with our families.
Good to know. We got Fire for Truth Nate. I mean, that's just his thing, Fire for Truth Nate, or the Wolfpack. I was thinking before the show, Michael Solomon, we just call Flat Out Michael, or Michael Flat Out.
I don't know.
I just think you kind of need this.
You need
Michael
a moniker.
Solomon, that voice, your debonair self, that laugh. It deserves kind of a title.
Oh, wait a minute. There is something I'm actually doing. I'm doing a voiceover for Gary Arbo. He has a new animated series coming out, and I'm playing the narrator and the angel Gabriel. So that's going to be fun.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm getting. He asked me to do a voice for that too. He hasn't been in touch with me about actually recording that yet, but I get to be a voice on there as well. I'm excited about that.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. I'm actually going to be recording the voiceover this week.
We got another question that's on the screen there, Nate.
I see that. Hey, we would have been at Take on the World this past summer, but as some of you know, a lot of you know, we had a big 50th wedding anniversary family reunion to do out west, and so we definitely had to pull the trigger on that, and didn't make it out to Take on the World. But we hope that we can do that this year. And as far as I know, there's no other 50ths or big shaboozis out there that would take the place of Take on the World for us. So I mean, if I believe it can happen this year for us to be there, that would be my goal. And if I can be part of something, exciting, even worship and, sharing some thoughts or whatever during worship, that'd be awesome, but yeah, it's it was a bummer to not make it out to Take on the World this last year, but we had family business that we needed to attend to, and we're glad that we did that. It was a true blessing to be able to fellowship with a couple that's been dedicated to each other for 50 years. I mean, it's not too many folks doing that these days. So
yeah,
really.
One of the other things I wanted to share on here, and I haven't done in the previous weeks here at Dispute the Lands, that we are doing is, and it just takes one person with the heart to be a host, is that we've started an Indiana fellowship that is getting together every Sabbath.
Nice.
And there are a number of people, but there's been one host for Indiana. There's one host home that, for me, I mean, it is a little bit of a drive to get there. It's still not far, but the drive takes time because of the route I have to take to get there. But once a month, but I'm making it a point to get there. And weekly, I want to encourage listeners out there and in your state, whatever you happen to be situated at, is to consider and pray about being a host home and creating a page for your state. And this is especially useful if you live, in a suburb or around or near one of the larger cities in your state, because the likelihood of someone being around or near you or within driving distance of you, for a Sabbath, to create your own group for your state or province, you Canadians out there, that you happen to be in, to start a Sabbath group. It's necessary. I see it as a necessity. If you're already doing it and it's a habit now, then it won't be a shock or surprise later. There won't be organization that needs to take place later. If you catch my drift, um, you know, you know who those people within driving distance for you will be, um, and where to meet. Okay, so I would encourage you to pray about and become that person if there isn't one. To create a group for your state or for your locality and begin a weekly Sabbath gathering together.
Yeah, and start small. If it's
Start small.
doing it with one family once a month to start.
Yep.
Some of you know Eric Rice in the chat. Eric's family and my family have become pretty close. This last year since we heard about them. 15 minutes from us, it's like, oh, there's another family that believes like us. Wow, and they keep the Sabbath and the feast. So we started doing a once a month Sabbath thing where we host at each other's homes. And, who knows, someday that could end up being a bigger thing. But a lot of people don't know where to start, how to start. It's intimidating, right? So start small. Find one individual or one family and, get out of your comfort zone and say, you know what, we'd like to host you for Sabbath or whatever this week. And that's where it starts, and once you get comfortable and kind of see how things go, you can branch out from there.
Yeah, if you're and you don't have to come out with an outline plan. Virtual House Church is still online. You can
Yep.
still go there, and there's thousands of hours of listening material. There's a set plan for reading the scriptures, so you don't need to develop a plan for reading scriptures. One is already in place for you, and as Nate has said so eloquently, you just need one other person or one other family to get together and to begin. Who's near you, and as the Father provides, these things have a habit of growing.
Hmm.
People have a habit, but I would encourage to create those pages and to say so. Hey, I'm starting a group. This is the Texas group. This is the Ohio group. Um, Me and so. This is one other person I know lives near us. We're going to start meeting together.
Hmm.
This is when and this is where. So just begin. I'm going to encourage you and remind you to do so. If you're looking for something to be about, a ministry to be about, just start simple, being a host. Just be a host, and the Father has a way of making those things turn out into being blessings. Carla, I see
Absolutely.
you again,
And
but
that's exactly the point, because if you start that, don't worry about, oh, will I find other people that will join? Once you open that door, then the Holy Spirit will lead them to you and lead you to them. So,
Hmm.
but you have to take that first step.
we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes, almost, brothers. That's really the end of Disputed Lands. There's really not much else to talk about unless you guys have things on your minds. Um, Thank you
I'm just
guys for
happy to I'm
being
just
here.
happy to be here, man, with you
Yeah,
guys.
same
And
here.
Yeah,
seeing friends and family in the chat here is awesome. So thank you so much.
yeah, it just feels good. I saw another article today, um, posted by Thomas Dunn about hugs. Did any of you guys see that?
I think I saw some of it, but I didn't
Yeah,
read
the
all of it.
average hug lasts about 5 seconds or less. Um, but it says they have shown and done studies that a hug that lasts 20 seconds or more actually kicks in and causes your brain to release the oxytocin
Hmm.
into your system, which is the bond. It's known as the bonding thing. It's more referred to often when being released when mothers have their children. That this is released into their systems in a mighty way for that purpose of bonding, right?
Hmm.
So when you go hug someone and call them and hug them for 20 seconds or longer, and then when you get done hugging, just thank them for the oxytocin. Thank you
Amen.
for my oxytocin kick today. I appreciate you.
And that fights against the isolation that we talked about in that document you shared.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed, yeah.
Next week, we're going to be doing part 2 with Dr. Judd Burton. He's going to be on with Panius part 2. We have that.
Nice.
I don't know if I have a guest lined up yet after that. Maybe I'll have Michael and Chris back on, since I haven't. This is the first time I had Michael on. Maybe I'll have him back on again with Chris and ask him what they have in store for flat out insights going off here into the future. I don't know, but I haven't had it planned that far. I love you guys. I love seeing you guys in the chat. Keep bringing people in. Share this wherever you can. The channel, Take on the World channel. Share this video. Tell people about it. If you're looking for something to talk about, hey, tell them about Disputed Lands. I'll be happy if you do, and I get to see more faces, so to speak, and love more people. But thanks for being here. I love you guys. It's been Disputed Lands, Take on the World TV. Until we see you next week, take care.
Love and blessings.
Bye, everyone.
Get right, get inside, get hungry, word of God appetite. Everlasting water, never again thirsty. To disputed lands, take a journey. Observe, interpret, and apply. Detoxify from demon doctrines, get edified. Fight the good fight, stop getting lied to. The kingdom of heaven is inside you.
Holy Spirit guide you.
Mortify your flesh by the scripture magnified. Applied what's amplified, dead corpse gets electrified. Dry bones get flesh, yelling the battle cry. To die is gain, to live is right. Oh yeah, you know that's right. We in this together, grab somebody's hand and hold tight. Study God's word until the world blurs. Fight evil with God's word as the world burns. Holding steadfast as it all crashes and burns. Cause whom devils disturb are preserved by God's word. That's word. Get right, get inside, get hungry, word of God appetite. Everlasting water, never again thirsty. To disputed lands, take a journey. Get right, get inside, get hungry, word of God appetite. Everlasting water, never again thirsty. To disputed lands, take a journey. Get right, get inside.